Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. Brought to you by Blockchain.com. Invest like your icons with Blockchain.com. The National Medal of Honor Museum. Join the mission at mohmuseum.org. Buffalo Wild Wings. If it's game day, Buffalo Wild Wings is the place to be. Alltech Lansing. Just listen with Alltech Lansing. Perfecting sound since 1927. And by SWBC Mortgage. Customized solutions to help you meet your personal and business goals. Visit SWBC.com. Now, your hosts, Nate Newton and Bobby Belt.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to Cowboys Crosstalk. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco. I'm Bobby Belt from 105.3 The Fan. Joined tonight by Nicole Hutchison from DallasCowboys.com. As always, we've got the three-time Super Bowl champion and six-time Pro Bowler Nate Newton here with us.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here, Mr. Belt.
And our special guest tonight is one of the most electric players ever to touch a football field, a member of the College Football Hall of Fame, and a two-time Heisman finalist, and
yes, sir.
A big-time playmaker for the Cowboys back in his day. Please welcome Rocket Ismail. Rocket, how you doing?
Rocket,
I am doing excellent, and I'm happy, and I have an internal smile on my face. And the reason I say internal smile is because when you said two-time Heisman finalist, I remember the first time we got that ability I didn't even know that I was up for the Heisman my sophomore year. We were on a road trip in the second semester going like January. So we're on a road trip to go to IU, Indiana University. It's a Greek weekend down there. So we travel all the way down there, and we're getting ready. We're listening to Bobby Brown's remix, Don't Be Cruel. Everybody getting ready to go to all the parties that night, right? Bruh, all of a sudden, somebody said, hey, the Heisman's on, and Tony Rice was up. He was supposed to be one of the finalists. So they come on. Tony Rice, he gets like, I don't know, third or something like that. And then they start listing the rest of the candidates.
Wow.
And I came in like 17th place or something.
Right.
We were so pumped. Everybody, they were like
at the party.
And from the University of Notre Dame, preparing to go to the party.
Yeah.
We were so hyped that we saw that. Oh wait, my boy, wait, you a sophomore? You ready for? Man, we were so hyped.
Yes, sir.
And it gave us extra courage because we weren't 21 yet.
Right.
However, all of the parties we went to, everybody was like talking to whatever girls they were trying to pick up. They're like, yo, you know, my man over there just came in 47th place for the Heisman Trophy.
Right.
And the rest of the night, and we would go up to the bouncers. They were like, hey, you know, my man right here, yo, 55th place Heisman Trophy. And they look at him like, man, give me your all right, come on in. So anyway, I had an internal smile moment right there. Let's now back to the show.
You know what though? That's a good place to start to jump off because actually, you were very ahead of your time in a lot of ways. I mean, just the speed that you had and you know the ability to stretch the field and do a bunch of different versatile things. That's very much like the modern NFL. But, let's talk about your career trajectory a little bit and jump back to college.
Okay.
And you were at a spot that is becoming more familiar today for college football players. But you were in a very powerful position when you were coming out of Notre Dame, in a spot where, unlike we had really ever seen from any college football player, somebody who was in a position to kind of, be from a powerful negotiating stance with the NFL heading into the draft. Just talk about that 1991 NFL draft when it was coming up, your decision process, and everything that went down with that path.
Okay, so I thank you for the kind sentiment of saying that I was in a very powerful spot. However, and this is crazy, I remember so what transpired was we played in what would eventually become the national championship game. We played against Colorado, New Year's night, Orange Bowl, big deal, and we were down 10-9, minute 6 seconds left. They punt the ball to us. I'm the returner. A bunch of stuff going on there. I get the ball, take it to the house.
Yes, sir.
And all of a sudden, there's a flag on the play. So now it's like a thrill of victory, it's agony of defeat moment. If you're my age, you know what the agony of defeat. You remember back in the day, Wild World of Sports? Right. Okay. So go home, and national television, my teammate, Chris Zorich, it's national news back in the day on the 4 channels that was on television.
Right.
And it was national news that his mother passed away. He came home, found his mother had passed away. My brother comes in and wakes me up, and he's like sad. He comes in and he's like, bro, you got to see this. Chris's mom just died. I'm like, what the heck happened? My mother, my brother, and I are sitting on a bed in a 17 Race Street in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and we're looking at the news, and it's crazy because my father passed away when I was 10. However, my mother's still there, so a lot of my goals were like, okay, I'm going to get my mother a house, just like what many new little boys have. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh, wait a minute. My mother can die before I get a chance to do what I'm supposed to do for her? And so it was like in that moment, I just remember looking at my mother, and we were thinking, it sounds like, man, I think I need to go pro because I don't want this to happen to you. Like that was my thought.
Right. Yeah.
Made that decision, went to school, told everybody. And then we get to the part that I was thinking that I wasn't even thinking powerful position. I was just thinking, man, I need to make sure I keep my mother straight. All of a sudden, I made the decision. Now I'm on the phone in my dorm room between classes in the second semester, or I guess the spring semester, and every NFL team that was supposed to be terrible called me up. So whoever sucked and was going to have the first pick of the draft that coming up year,
Right.
I'm on the phone with them. And guess what? All of them offered the same deal. It was a 5-year deal, $1.5 million. And I was thinking to myself, man, I don't have $1.5 million, $400,000 signing bonus. The rest will be prorated over the 5 years. And it was like, take it or leave it. And the reason why they did that was because of John Elway. When he was the first pick of the draft,
Baltimore,
he didn't want to go to Baltimore. He told them, I'm not doing it. I'm going to play with the Yankees. The Yankees were like, okay, we'll take you.
Right.
And then so he had leverage there. I didn't have that kind of leverage. And so I was just essentially not doomed, but I'd be better off than I was if I didn't go. But I didn't have any leverage with any of the teams. So all of a sudden, I got a call from my attorney maybe 4 or 5 days later. And he's like, hey, man, I just got an interesting call from a guy in Los Angeles who owns the Los Angeles Kings and all these other corporate entities. And he's wanting you to fly out to Los Angeles to hear a proposition that he has. Long story short, that ended up taking me to the CFL, signed at the time the richest contract in football history, pro football history. And that leverage that you were talking about, it was there, but it came about in a different way. And it took 2 more years before I actually came to the NFL and took my journey NFL-wise from there.
I'm curious, Nate, we'll talk about the decision to jump to the CFL and what you experienced there. But, Nate, being on the Cowboys that year, Dallas trades up for that pick a couple weeks before the draft.
Yes.
I think Raiders had the pick. I don't remember who it was. But Dallas trades up for the pick. And there was a lot of stuff written at the time. I know you were getting interviewed at the time about what would you think about Dallas, and you were getting a lot of media attention. Nate, when you heard that news, did you start sniffing around oh, who are we taking? Are we getting there? Are we getting that speedster in here? What are we doing here?
He was it. He was it. But Jimmy and Mr. Jones, like them, and I'm not saying it was collusion, but for 5 teams to call you with the same contract, I'm not saying it was collusion. Okay, now, thank God for what's happening today. The players holding out, guys being able to get a little bit more. But when he left, they already knew we're taking Russell Maryland. Russell took the contract. Russell's like, I'll take it.
Yes.
You don't want it.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what's interesting? You mentioned the Raiders. So I remember there were 5 teams that I spoke to, but there were 4 of them that I remember. It was the Falcons, the Browns, the Cowboys, and it was one other team that was had such a terrible season that they were possibly going to be the first pick. Right. And I did look up the word collusion, and essentially that's what happened. Yeah. However, when you say the Raiders, I remember when we made the decision to go to Canada, I remember talking to Ralph Wiley because he was helping me make all of the decisions and get the right people. Mm-hmm. He was like, hey, man, well, eventually this contract in the CFL is going to run out. What you want to do about the NFL? And, man, I wish I would have had the mindset that I have now as far as how do you pick a good team and all those things. Right. And, man, I was just like, well, I heard Al Davis likes fast guys. Let's go to the Raiders. And also in the back of my mind, it's like, man, Los Angeles is gonna be, it's Hollywood out there. All the ladies is out there. Everything's gonna be high level. And so, from a decision-making prospect, we called the Raiders, told them what I was gonna do, and then on draft day, they ended up taking me on the 100th pick in the 4th round, and then everybody's like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? How's this? Well, that was a little behind the scenes that I just shared with you. And talk about Jimmy Johnson. After we played Miami my senior year, when we had like Catholic versus convicts kind of situation, it was crazy,
big fights
man.
And everything.
Man, when we played Jimmy Johnson, I'm thinking Jimmy Johnson and Lou Holtz hate each other, right? All of a sudden, I come into Coach Holtz's office after we played them, and wouldn't you know it, he's like, son, have I got a place for you? I just got off the phone with Jimmy Johnson, Josh, and he told me. And, man, Jimmy Johnson gave Coach Holtz a wide receiver screen. Right. He was like, oh, man, Rocket will be perfect for this. And I was like, that thing averaged probably like 25, 30 yards every time we ran it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, man, it gave me a new revelation on college coaches, and you think it's this intense rivalry, you think they can't stand each other, they hate each other, and all of a sudden, after the game, they're talking to each other, and he's like, hey, man, you know that number 25 you got? Give him this play, and every time you do it, it'll at least get 30 yards for you. So, I mean, when you talk about Jimmy Johnson, it's like my memory is just like clicking as I'm going down memory lane about all this stuff.
Yes, sir. Rocket Rock.
Rocket
Rock.
Rocket Rock. Y'all are sick. No, Rocket, when you talk about the leverage that you had to make that decision and go play in the CFL, and with the whole landscape of a lot of guys don't have that opportunity to have that choice. They are kind of forced to go to the XFL, USFL, those leagues to play and things like that to make their way to the NFL. Have you ever had those conversations with guys, or do they come to you and ask for advice with things like that?
So, yes, and one of the things that I'm telling you, the way the Lord just hooked everything up for me, the pattern of my life, things just being added to me that were necessary for whatever my gift was to shine. Looking back at it, I was perfect timing every time in that Notre Dame was on a resurgence.
That's right.
And it was like all eyes were on Notre Dame. I knew Notre Dame had like status in the college football world, but I didn't know to the degree. Yeah. And it was like on a high level. So that was the first thing. And then it was like I really wasn't a good wide receiver at all. I was bootleg. When I look at myself back in the day, I was like, oh man, I was a terrible receiver.
Crazy.
However, whenever the moments were
the biggest,
the most significant, man, I seem to always be in those moments and always shining at that time. And this is the other thing, all of our opponents, no disrespect to the academies, but all of our opponents were like the highest level: Michigan, Miami, Tennessee, Michigan State. Man, we like all of the highest level, Florida State, like all those we play all those games. Yeah. So the games are meaningful to everybody. The moments are significant. And then, wait, who's this number 25 always showing up? How did this cat? So that right there, when I share it with them, I can't say, well, you've not been in that position where the exposure is maximal. So I just more encourage them, okay, what do we do from now? And help them navigate that road. But what I was a part of that helped me to be in that position was totally divine. Totally.
Let me say this real quick. That's when they had the AP and the UP.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be with two teams. So you had to play the big boys. And
That's a good point.
You had to play the big boys. And I want to say this right here with your divine revelations is I thought Buddy Ryan and Coach Johnson hated each other. But they did a roast for Coach Johnson. Guess who his main attraction was? Here go Buddy Ryan sitting up there. And I hear them talking about practicing, how they practice. I'm like, y'all two guys? We love each other.
It's all with a wink and a nod.
Yeah.
I like that point talking about the exposure that was there in Notre Dame and how that was something that you weren't necessarily prepared for. And so I want to touch on that when we come back and also get into the NFL career. But that'll be when we come back next here on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. SWBC customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco for the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. Thanks to those of you joining us on DallasCowboys.com and on 105.3 The Fan. I'm Bobby Belt from 105.3 The Fan. I'm joined tonight by Nicole Hutchinson from DallasCowboys.com.
Yes.
We've got the multi-time Pro Bowler and Super Bowl winner, Nate Newton.
Yes.
Nate, you need to come up here one of these nights just with all three of them on, I think, just to flex on everybody.
That's a different level of payment. I'm sorry.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
sorry. I
like that.
And joining us tonight is former Dallas Cowboy Rocket Ismail. I love it. I like it.
Get this guy away.
I know. I didn't even think of it from that angle, Nate. Nate, I was thinking of it from the angle of just to flex on everybody.
Yeah,
That's-
that was no.
I
Go ahead.
love
Did we introduce Rocket? Did we introduce
I
Rocket?
We did.
love that.
Rocket Ismail joined us here. So, Rocket, you were just talking about when we were going to break about how big the spotlight was at Notre Dame, bigger than you could have thought. And then when you decided to go play in the CFL, that alone was probably just a ton of attention. Absent the CFL, just the decision itself brought a lot of spotlight. You ended up here in Dallas later in your career. You experienced what the Cowboy aura is all about. The Cowboys have a general approach, it feels like, that they want to draft big college program players. They want to get the Ohio State kids, the Alabamas and stuff like that. And I think the thought process there a lot of times is those kids are more prepared to understand what it's going to be like when they get here because it's really difficult. Do you feel like, having been at those two historic programs, Notre Dame and College and Dallas here, do you feel like that's a wise way to approach it when you're kind of evaluating players is, yeah, you need to make sure that these kids have some taste of it?
So, on the surface level, I feel like that's wise. I know also that for me, I wasn't, like, psychologically being in an environment that it's a massive amount of attention that's focused on the players, and there's what you assume is a massive amount of pressure to perform under that type of attention and those type of lights. I feel like every NFL team probably has this as a part of their assessment process when they're dealing with guys that they're going to draft. But I feel like there probably is some type of an evaluation on the psychology of who they're about to draft for that specific type of environment that they're possibly going to be thrust into. And I know for me, I wasn't a guy that liked attention. And the reason I didn't like attention was because I never felt – I think it was probably because my father died when I was so young. I never felt like I was equipped to handle whatever the task was. Now, eventually I would have to be in that situation, and thank God I would rise to the top. But I think that was more my grandmother's prayers, my mother's prayers, family members who was like, hey, Rocket is out there, go start praying for him. So I feel like that was more divine intervention because my normal makeup is avoiding anything that puts attention on you. And I've had to learn now as an old man now, I understand myself, and I understand the fears and anxieties that come with, oh, man, this is a big deal. Boy, you better. And I have mechanisms that over the years I've developed that I can go to and remind myself of, okay, it's not on you anyway. And one of the things that was a blessing about Notre Dame, especially the time that I went there, was everybody in the recruiting classes, all 3 years that I was there, were like the top of the line. And so when I would be in the locker room, I would be overwhelmed with anxiety or overwhelmed with fear, but then I would just look around. I was like, oh, that's Nate Newton right there. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. The fear level would go down. Right. And I was like, oh, that's Ricky Waters right there. Oh, that's Tony Rice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The fear level would go down. Oh, that's Chris Zorich. Oh, the fear level will go down. And then I was just like, oh, it's not on me.
Yeah.
I'm be fine. And so I feel like the Cowboys have that, and that I believe helps for guys like me who don't really have that normally don't have that type of confidence, but have the ability to rise to the occasion. So I don't know if I answered the question the right way.
I think that absolutely is kind of what I was looking at. Nate, similar to that, where he says it's a good idea in theory. Having been in this building as long as you have, whether it be as a player or when you've done the broadcasting side and hung around, while it's a nice thought, is there anything really you think that can prepare you for what this really is? Is it kind of like
nothing can compare you for New York, Philadelphia, the Cowboys, the LA Lakers, the Boston Celtics. Even if you played at major universities, because they don't take college kids and just expose them like they do at pros. I'm talking about basketball, tennis. It don't make a difference. Once you say pro, you get exposed and you get asked certain questions. You're not going to get protected. For me, being a free agent coming from a black college, I never had no preparation, none whatsoever. I got to the Cowboys, and I didn't know what I didn't know, but I was never scared to talk to another man. And so I wound up being I don't know what the proper title is, but just every week it was something. Guess what Nate said this week? And it wasn't never about my team. It was just about life itself. So I was always, hey, Nate exposed the White House. Nate exposed this. Nate should have, you know what I'm saying? So, but I also had knowledge of football. And I could tell you what Nate needed to do. I could tell you what we needed to do as a team. So I could always talk to other men. As long as you came to me straight up, I could talk to you. But I had that fear too, because for another reason, I walked in and like, they go Randy White. They go my childhood dream. They go Danny White. Man. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? And they over there with a mic in my face, and I'm in awe of these guys.
Right.
But they were handling. I'm like you. They were handling it. So I went to talking too, even though I didn't know what I was talking about.
How much easier was it without social media though? Because now you have guys that grew up with social media, everybody catching everything, and that's just more of how they handle the spotlight. So how much easier was it for y'all?
So I think my personality, I would have avoided social media unless now that we're in the NIL era, that would have been somebody say, okay, hey, this is how you need to monetize right now while you're hot and at the peak of your awareness in football culture, and this is how you can take advantage of it. So if they would have brought social media to me, I suspect that if we were being truthful, I'd be like, hey, man, I don't like when I read something negative about myself and it makes me angry, and then I can't control my emotions. Yeah. So we probably would have had to put some type of a hedge around me for me not to be susceptible to not being able to be sober-minded.
So you ain't going to pick up your phone.
You said what?
You weren't going to pick up your phone.
Oh, that's right. And we had I forgot about the phones. Man, so
apps on everything. You got Instagram, Twitter.
Now you know who would have been a social media superstar?
Who?
Nathaniel Elijah Newton. I don't know if that's your middle name or not.
He just put it in. Thank you for the middle name, right?
Nate might have been writing a bunch of notes, apologies.
No. The way I can tell you the way I handle social media. I have all these things too. I'll retweet what you say. I'll retweet what you. If I see it, I'll read. But 9 times out of 10, I won't see it because I'm not big into that. So all the guys that work here that I'm connected with, I just retweet what you said. But if I have something to say, I never get into a conversation. People are like, you can have so many more followers. If I feel that, and I'll give you an example, like a lot of people talking about it's the running backs. I think it's more our offensive line. I've seen our running backs run before. And I'm talking about Rico Dowdle and even a little bit of Deuce. I've seen what they can do and what they should be able to do. So I'm saying it's mostly our offensive line. I don't tweet back. I don't get into debates. What I say is what I mean, and that's it. So,
standing on it.
Yeah, so.
The reason I said Nate would have been a star is just because in the football world, everybody who, for me, I'm just talking about myself.
Right.
When I saw the Cowboys, I was like, yo, that lineman right there, Nate, that dude is funny. His personality shined, and it was. I'm a receiver. He's a lineman. I'm attracted to like, yo, this cat got something going on. So I feel like, if this was then, as far as the social media and attention like that, Nate would have rose above
Well,
the
I'm
crowd.
gonna tell you who's an artist at it, and he started and grew up with it, and now he's a mega star. That's Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
That's a
Oh,
good
yeah,
one.
He got the personality.
He
That's a
started.
for a
He
whole
started
lot
about
of time.
8 years ago, and I would tell him, like, Prime, you just putting it out there. He said, "Yeah, I am."
Yep.
Yeah, 8 years later, yeah,
Yeah,
he is.
he absolutely is.
Yeah.
All right, let's kind of wrap things up when we come back from this next break. We're about to take a break here. Let's kind of wrap things up about your time here in Dallas, getting here, and then the time you spent here. And then let's start looking back at this Ravens game that just occurred, and then look ahead to the Giants game that we have tomorrow
we
night.
detour?
That is next on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
Clear.
One live.
Back to SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. Thank you so much for joining us here on 105 through the Fan and on DallasCowboys.com. We are live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco for the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk. I'm Bobby Belt. We got Nicole Hutchinson from DallasCowboys.com. Nate Newton, who will not be bringing his Super Bowl rings up here anytime soon. And then we've got the Speed Demon legend, Rocket Ismail.
Yeah, Rocket.
So Rocket, we talked earlier about, Dallas had traded up for the number one pick. I think you gave I was doing some research about the value of trading for the number one pick this past offseason, and your year came up. And so I was reading some quotes you had given about, like, Dallas, it'd be great to play that. Like, you were clearly just a little, like, uneasy talking about it. But you end up having a kind of rebound after years in Oakland. You have a rebound, Oakland, LA, wherever they were at that time.
Yep.
You have a rebound in Carolina, play really well, get here to Dallas, And 3rd and 2 from the Dallas 24 in overtime. Dan Snyder's first game as owner of Washington.
Yes.
And this was your first game with the Dallas Cowboys. That was a game you guys were down 21 with like 11 minutes left.
Right.
Getting beat down. Big comeback. And on 3rd and 2, the play action to Emmett works perfectly, hit you down the field for that big 76-yarder. How big and full circle did that feel to you in that moment of just like, here I am on this stage performing at a big level with Dallas like I always thought I might end up?
Bruh, let me tell you. Got to get the backstory. So at Carolina, I was exposed to superior coaching and strategy from a receiver's perspective. I, at that time, thought, okay, the top coaches in the world are coaching in the NFL, so I didn't have anything to compare to, but I was like, oh, wait a minute, this coaching is another level, and that's why I started to excel. So that's the first thing. Get to Dallas, and mentally, over the trials and tribulations of what I experienced, and I think it was 7, 8, 9, the previous 9 years in professional football, it was like I started putting together developing tools that when things weren't going my way, I was able to lean on them, and they would bring me back to, okay, this is who you are, and this is what you can do. So when we got here in that first game, it was amazing. It was a spiritual transformation, first of all, and it was the spirit of the Cowboys then, and what happened from Nate and those guys' time up until when I got here was they did not – there was something in them that would not accept mediocrity and not accept any type of less than excellence. So I remember in the first half of the game, ran a play that actually ended up winning the game. I dropped the ball. So now I'm doing the football version of the walk of shame all the way back to the all the way back to the huddle. Man, I get in the huddle, and it's like you want to do so good, but you don't, and then you deserve to be chastised. Right. And I remember Eric Williams, he had these mummy wraps on his arms so he could smack guys in the head when he was blocking them, and put stalemate guys like what's your boy Reggie White off the end from Philly. Right. Man, he said what everybody, and when I say you don't tolerate mediocrity, he said what everybody in the huddle wanted to say. He looked at me, and he's on the other end. I'm down. We're on opposite ends of the huddle. He said, "Mother blah 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 blah." He said, "Catch the blah blah blue doo ball." And as he was saying it, I noticed his arm was winding back, and I was like, "Is this man stretching while he's talking to me? What kind of situation am I in?" And right as he finished it, like a physical exclamation point, that doggone arm went from being in the stretch position to full force action and smacked me across the helmet in my doggone left ear. And this is no exaggeration, my entire left side was numb for the rest of the first half. But it was like I was so humiliated and mortified that I let the guys down and that I brought in mediocrity into an environment where excellence was expected, that I was thankful for it, and I was like, "Sir, yes, sir." And everybody was like, but I was like, "Oh, this is why they were always so good. Like this is why they don't tolerate any mediocrity." And another dynamic I remember, that's when I realized that Michael Irvin, like when you say you're the heart of a team, like you have the preeminence is typically put on the quarterback, which it was. Michael Irvin was he was such a well-balanced, like I liked him because he had when you talk about alpha dogs, it's like he's like to me the ultimate alpha dog in that environment, because man, he got that force in his emotion, and he doesn't like bullies. So he'll meet challenge for challenge, but he won't bully you. Right. And if he sees somebody bullying somebody on the team, I don't care if you're O lineman or D lineman, I don't care if you're the son of the doggone mayor, man, he will step to you and correct you. Right. So I'm seeing his dynamic, and I remember he would come back to the huddle because they put Champ Bailey on him because he's the young, tall, athletic DB, and they put Darryl Green on me because he's fast and we're like the same size.
Right.
And I remember Mike would come back to the huddle, and he would say, "Troy, I'm gonna run a strip, I'm gonna go down this, and I'm going, and I'm gonna be open." And I remember Troy was so cool, calm, collected. He was like, "All right, Mike." Two of the touchdowns that dynamic happened on, it happened
Right.
twice. One was a major first down. The other two were touchdowns.
Right.
And I was just like, oh my goodness. And so you could see that type of tenacity and care and was harmony amongst the guys that were in that huddle. So now all this is happening, and I'm like, Lord, you got to redeem me, man. I'm messed up in front of these dudes. Oh, my God. And I know my wife was home praying, and my little boys was at, and I think Kiana was just born, so I had my youngest girls. So all of a sudden, we're in overtime, and I'm stunned. I'm like, man, we were down 28 points or something,
Right.
21 points. It's crazy. I was like, these cats are on a high level. And all of a sudden, they call that play again in the huddle.
Do you remember the name of it?
I do not.
Okay.
Please forgive me. Please forgive me.
Yeah.
But I remember Emmett once the play came in. I don't know if they called it in, if a player brought it in. I remember we leaned down. They called the play. Everybody looked at me, and Emmett was like, "Hot, blah 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 blah, rocket, you going blah 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 yada yada,
Right.
catch that blah 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 ball."
Right.
And I was like, "Sir, yes sir, let's go." And then it happened. So I had to give you all of that because I did get a chance at redemption. It became a play, and it was just like at Notre Dame. It was like, here's a significant moment. And I think we were the primetime afternoon game.
Right.
And when we played, and FedEx Field was like brand new or
Yes,
something
it
like
was.
that.
Yep.
And so it was like at the time before Mr. Jones did his thing, it was like one of the jewels as far as a stadium of the NFL world. And so it was a big deal. Cowboys, Washington. And now the doggone play happens. And you know, it was funny. When it happened, it was so easy and so just effortless, but it was a lot in foundation that went into that play happening. So for you bringing it up, thank you.
Paralyzation was even in it.
Bruh, it was, man. So I'm thankful to have been a part of that dynamic and a part of the redemption in regards to, and now I know what it should look like amongst players if I'm ever around them, the type of dynamics that you need to make a team that consistently wins.
I'm really glad you brought up that angle of it. We're about to take our last break. I want to make sure we have as much time as we can to get in this last segment, kind of preview things a little bit. But specifically, I want to tee up the question before we go to break because it's important. When you talk about that intensity and that tenacity and, you know, barking at each other and holding each other accountable, given what we saw this weekend against Baltimore with CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons and those interactions going on the sideline, how do you make sure that those interactions are productive and not toxic? So I want you to think about that while we're in this 3-minute break. We're going to be right back here on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
Rocket Show.
Touchdown.
Go Cowboys!
SWBC Mortgage's Dallas Cowboys Crosstalk.
Check this out.
Broadcasting live from the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco.
At SWBC, customized solutions for individuals and businesses are just a click away. Visit SWBC.com to learn more and start your next adventure. Welcome back to the Cowboys Club at the Star in Frisco for the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk, powered by Rocket Ismail. I've got Nicole Hutchison, Nate Newton,
Yes.
and, of course, Rocket Ismail with us tonight. So I asked that question when we were going to break about the idea of how do you make sure that tense interactions on the sideline, those ones like you were describing, Rocket, how do you make sure that those have a productive end to them and don't have a detrimental effect on culture? Nate, give me your thoughts first, and then I want to jump over to Rocket and get some insight.
See, he talked about Micah Irvin. That was Micah Irvin. he would listen to what you have to say, and then he would diagnose the situation, how it's going to handle, how he want this team to be ran. He knew who Troy was. So, because I had a situation where Troy said something to me, boy, I thought was so out of line. Can't even think what it was now. And I told Mike, I said, I'm finna get this dude. So Mike went direct at me, like, you ain't finna get this dude because you finna get cut. So as soon as you do what you do, and that was to stop me cold. He knew right then I got to stop this dude. But then after the game, he telling you realize this is our quarterback. You realize that he's got more than just you to worry about. So Mike would get in, because like you say, he was the ultimate leader.
Yes.
He knew how to talk to everybody, race, size, position, defense, offense. He could touch everybody because he had that Warriors mentality to win and how to get us to perform. So he would stop it. And on top of that, Jimmy Johnson would smash it. Yeah, he would smash it. But this is a different era.
Yeah.
So I can't address it now.
So my thoughts, pardon me, my thoughts are that we won't really know because we're external. And internally, what I saw that would be ideal was if there were any intense moments. When I first got here, when there were intense moments between guys, how you knew it didn't go any further was all of a sudden now we're making fun of each other again. We're laughing again, like whether it's at the end of that day or you got to go home and cool off and then come back the next day. And I remember there was an intense moment, and I was like, oh, man, this is going to mess up the chemistry. And then the next thing I know, Mike comes in, and this is hilarious. His shirt that you wear externally, all of his boxers and his undershirt matched his shirt, and people and when Cass saw it, because he walked in the locker room like, yeah, I'm the man, check me out, whatever. And brothers start roasting him like crazy, and I was like, oh, okay, everything is good now. Everything's cool. I thought it was going to carry over. So I don't have the ability to diagnose and see that, so I don't know how to answer that. But something like that in regards to this current team should take place in order to make sure if there's any beef, it's squashed.
What I like is that CD did take accountability about how he handled it, because at the end of the day, you know, you're down, you're losing or whatever, you're not really thinking about the fact that you're screwing up. And granted, I mean, love covering these guys, but CD was running lazy routes. He wasn't doing his part, and so it's kind of like you can't expect Dak to be wanting to throw you the ball, you're requesting to throw him the ball or get the ball thrown at you, and you're not doing your part. So I love the fact that he owned his stuff and took accountability, and now it's just move forward.
And what it sounds like I'm hearing from you guys on the front, because both of you saying, like, I can't really speak to it, but you're both saying common things, it sounds like to me, which is those moments can only come after you've built a foundation of trusting each other. And so, like, the biggest thing will just have to be that if those moments have come and they haven't already built a trust or built a camaraderie, then that can kill them pretty quickly.
The thing that you have to also understand is at this point, this team should not have a loser's mentality. I've been on a loser's mentality where this type of thing can tear up your team. But you have a winner. You've been 12-5. You've been at the bottom of the barrel. Yes, this is back-to-back, something that's unique from the last 2 years, But y'all should, like you say, have enough trust, man, to know that we can fix this. And to me, it's a small fix. Between him and Dak. Now, the offensive line, that's a large fix.
You know, it's interesting that something that gave me hope, and it was crazy. I'm just scrolling through like NFL highlights on
Right.
YouTube. I come across, I think it was Chris Carter, and this topic came up, and Chris Carter said something that he heard Bill Belichick say. And so I was like, oh, Bill Belichick, let me listen to this. And he was talking about this modern NFL era, and he was talking about don't panic while the first 4 games have not yet been played.
Thank you.
He was like, don't panic, because what happens is the first 4 NFL season games for this modern era, this is Bill Belichick, is still in that preseason-ish type mode, and it's in the development mode, and when we talked about development trust and things of that nature, you will see what you have, but it's going to take the first 4 games. And then after that, so when he said that, I was like, oh, okay, this is on the game 3. So I didn't, like, get into place where I'm down and everything is starting to be like, okay, the sky's falling. So that helped me a little bit when I thought about just what was going on so far.
I want to, kind of wrap here, get Nicole and Nate's thoughts in advance here of what we're looking at with the Giants tomorrow. Before we do that, Rocket, there's been a lot of questions here about Brandon Cooks, 31 years old. Does he still have the same, trailblazing speed that he did? Very similar type of player. He's a 5'10", 189, 4'3" kind of guy.
Right.
Like that. That's the same sort of skill set. So people are wondering, is he not getting that same separation because of that? So before we just wrap up with the Giants preview, when did you feel like you lost a step with a similar athletic profile?
So I'll never forget this. I remember, I think it was I don't know if it was whenever Mario Edwards was drafted. That's all I'll say. So Mario Edwards, he's probably about 6 feet, really long arms, and he was a rookie out of Florida State. And I remember we were in a mini camp, and I remember the first time he came up on me. Usually guys nobody came up on me on a game. Well, one time they did, but they paid for it. But the next time, this is the first time one of our guys came up on me in the game, in the practice. And so I remember I was like, okay, he got them long arms profile. I'm just going to do what I normally do. I'm going to slip out the line.
Right.
I'm going to get in his body real fast, and I'm going to stack him. Man, he put his arm out there. I was like, I did everything in my mind that I thought was going to be effective. I put his arm down, and then his arm just came back, and he was still the same distance away from me. I was like, wait, what the savage? And so he negated me on that play, and I remember thinking to myself, yo, I think I lost a step. However, and this is the other thing, this that confirmed it. We were doing 40 times later that summer, and I could not break 4.3 for the life of me. Like I just kept running 4.3, 4.3 low, but 4.3, 4.3, 4.3. And I was like, what is happening? And so anyway, I lost a step. And so what compensated, however, and I was still able to get separation, was that in the games, guys still are aware of, like, hey, wait, unless they're playing two-man, they're not just trying to come up and you just might catch Rocket on a real fast and get got. So that didn't happen, but I also became a route technician, and I didn't have any wasted steps for the majority of my routes. And because of that, the little bit of separation that you need in the NFL, I always got it when it was needed.
So for those keeping track at home, Rocket, when that would have been, when you're describing, would have been when you were 30, about to turn 31.
Yes.
Today, Brandon Cooks turned 31 years old. So, all right, let's really quickly wrap up here. Nicole, Nate, we'll start with you, Nicole. Thoughts just heading into this Giants game in the last couple minutes we have left. What are you looking for? What concerns do you have?
Ooh, I have a lot of concerns. But if I had to choose one, I'd say is I want them to be able to run the football. I mean, me and Nate were talking about it. I agree with the offensive line issues, but I also haven't seen enough from Rico and Zeke this year. I mean, we've seen what Rico can do. He's shifty. He has some burst to him, and is just a violent runner. But we haven't had a chance to see that this year because Mike McCarthy says they haven't gotten the amount of attempts that they need. That's, again, because this offensive line isn't doing what they need to do to open up holes. But, again, I want to see them establish the run. It's going to be a little bit wet conditions, so it'll be a little bit difficult. And plus, going up against this defensive line that the Giants have, the interior is pretty scary. So they're going to have to find a way to run the football, maybe attack the edges or something, but running up the middle is not going to happen. So I really just want to see them establish a run game, and hopefully everything else falls into place.
Nate, short week, traveling, physical football game you're just coming off of. What are you looking ahead to tonight?
Dexter Lawrence. Dexter Lawrence. If he gets penetration up our field, it's over. This is Cooper Beebe. Welcome, baby.
Yeah.
Welcome. Because you got Burns on the outside and you got Thibodeau on the other side. These guys can hold edges. We're going to have to run the football. We got to keep them off the field because they're going to run the ball at least 35 times. They did it before they was playing us. They watched that film. They're going to do it now out playing us. So that's what I'm watching. It's all on our offense. Our defense is not there. It's all on our offense.
Yeah, and I think, when you mention running the ball and other things, I think if they're able to protect, they'll be able to take advantage of some things in the secondary. Two of the Giants' better corners, Adoree Jackson and Drew Phillips, are going to be out in this game. So I think they'd be able to take advantage of some things, but they got to be able to protect. And the way these blitz schemes and everything else that the Giants have been running, it's going to be difficult. You got two young guys.
Let me say this real quick.
Hit me.
You ever see pass rush out there? Defense, offense, pass rush? Normally the defense win, right?
Yeah.
That's what'll happen if we can't run the ball. It'll be pass rush. That's all it'll be.
There's a number of challenges ahead for this game. Big game, very big game, very big early September game. Thank you to Nicole Hutchison tonight, Nate Newton, and, of course, Rocket Ismail. Absolutely appreciate it. It was fantastic. Can't wait to have you back again.
There we go.
Nate, I guess I got to hit you. There we go. All right, that does it for us today. We'll talk to you guys again next week on the SWBC Cowboys Crosstalk.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?